Greetings, humans. I, the guiding light of demigodness, would like to talk about something. Some fresh degeneracy out of Sweden, where the establishment consisting of cultural Marxists and in some cases even outright communists had stopped accepting this feminine narrative, the feminine beta-leftist narrative, and the cultural Marxist and politically correct hegemony is fucking extreme communist, cultural Marxist, feminist, multiculturalism and massive immigration. And have cut off their cock, vicious cultural Marxist indoctrination. The cultural Marxist establishment say that modernity and cultural Marxism, gay pride and gay propaganda. I'm opposed to the multicultural hell project. This is a declaration of war against feminism for me right now. Look at all the fucking books behind me. I've read them all. Do not participate in a degenerate lifestyle by third worlders or Muslims or whatever. Fucking busted cunts of feminists. Porn is not your friend. Porn is your enemy. For me, Adolf Hitler was a very accomplished economist. And that's basically it.
Hang on a minute, is this real? Are you a real person, or are you just doing a parody of a complete twat? Hello there, hello there, hello there, and welcome, one and all, to episode 23 of The Descent of Man-osphere, the series where I take you through the ways in which the Man-osphere and its utterly disgusting inhabitants are trying to reverse human evolution and drag us all back into the fucking sea. And today we're dealing with a proud, patriotic man from Sweden. In fact, so patriotic is he that he lives over 1,000 miles away in the Republic of Ireland. Brilliant. Yes, it's the Golden One! Now, the Golden One is arguably the most ridiculous of all the people we've focused on so far in this series. He's not necessarily the most hateful, although he is hateful, of which more later. He is probably the most ridiculous. I mean, as you saw from that intro, the guy is fucking shredded. I mean, he is basically unhealthily large. In fact, every time I look at him, I can't help but be reminded of this bit from Family Guy.
What's going on, B-? What's a heps?
Stewie, you look gross. You look like Lou Ferrigno's poop.
I look like a guy who's been hitting the gym.
It has nothing to do with the gym. You're on drugs.
Doesn't matter how you find the pot of gold, B to the Ryan. All that matters is that you beat the leprechauns.
That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't have to make sense when you look like this. Ugh!
But anyway, as with everyone in this series, he has a ridiculous disrespect for women. I mean, that's sort of one of the key components of all of the people involved in this series that sort of basically qualifies you for entry into the Hall of Shame that is The Descent of Man-osphere. So I've put together a little clips package here, which I'm going to put at the beginning of the video, basically to get it out of the way, because even though he is a horrible fucking misogynist twat and a sort of traditional patriarchal fucking arsehole, although at least he's honest about it, unlike some of them. The really interesting bits of him lie in his political thinking, and I use the word thinking very loosely there. So let's have a look at his misogynist bullshit first.
When it comes to your little sisters and your daughters, if you have them, be uncompromising in this. It doesn't matter if some fat feminist who can't get a man of her own says oh, you shouldn't control your women. If she doesn't listen, you can either be a pussy-whipped feminist and listen to her, or you can say, no, I'm in charge of your safety. You do not go out, and you certainly do not go out dressed like that. I'm gonna go to the gym, and then I'm gonna go home and violate my fair maiden. So they took this beautiful, young, feminine girl and turned her into this. And let's not spend any more time discussing whether this is absolutely degenerate or not. Everyone can see that this is not a pretty, this is not a healthy, natural girl. You're fucking cowards. You have no concept of honor. I fucking spit on you. I have nothing but contempt for you. You are... you're a fucking affront to women's rights. You profess to stand up for women. The Western world is that the feminine voice has completely steamrolled the masculine voice, which, I will tie this into current predicament, has resulted in the mass invasion of hostile forces. The more high value you are, the more high value man you can get. And do not expect to get a high value man if you can't clean or cook.
So, with that dealt with, let's get on with his politics, okay? Now, the Golden One is a nationalist. He's a Swedish nationalist, although, like I say, he lives over 1,000 fucking miles away in the Republic of Ireland. But he's also like a European nationalist as well. Keeps going on about being on Team Europe and you know, Sons of Mother Europe and all this fucking absurd shite. And as an extreme rightist, he couldn't help but do some historical revision in a video entitled Adolf Hitler and the Real Reason for World War II. And yes, this is bad. This is really, really fucking bad.
Today I want to delve into a very important topic, a bit taboo. I agree, I don't do myself any favors by talking about these sort of things, but I need to be true to my ideals of honesty as well. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because the official narrative of why the Second World War happened is so childlike in its simplicity. So I just have to get a video out there giving a more realistic view of the war.
Hold on to your hats, people. We're on the fucking crazy train now.
Now, the official narrative is basically what we're being taught in school, etc., is that Hitler was a power-hungry man who wanted to destroy everything, and then you have this misconception of the master race, etc.
Firstly, Hitler was incredibly power-hungry, obviously. That's not even like, I don't even know many people who dispute that. That's ridiculous claim to have made. And also, as to your second point about the master race thing being a misconception, I wonder where people could have got such a misconception from exactly.
And also let me elaborate a bit on the Jewish situation in Europe at the moment. Germany was hardly the only place where, you know, the Jews were targeted.
Yes, and your point being exactly. Like, yeah, Jews were targeted in large parts of the Western world during the early part of the 20th century. That doesn't excuse what happened in Germany. It's one of the basic bits of parenting to say, don't blame the other kid just because they were doing it. Would you jump off a cliff if they jumped off a cliff? One of those sorts of things, you know. And yet you're pulling the same fucking bullshit now. You're a grown man. Get a fucking grip.
You know, the Jews were targeted. And we need to distinguish between the international Jewish banking community and individual Jews.
Why are you drawing that distinction, though? Because, you know, the Nazis didn't. And that was the whole point of what you're supposed to be talking about here. You're drawing an arbitrary distinction between different types of Jewish people that the Nazis did not.
However, let us not fool ourselves. I've seen a lot of red pill guys say like, oh, you know, nothing bad happened to the Jews during Hitler's Germany. That is absolutely false. We have 300,000 people, Jews, dying of malnutrition in working camps. And, you know, the Kristallnacht, it's hardly a conspiracy.
You rather conveniently forgot to mention there the industrialised slaughter of millions of fucking people. The generally accepted figure is around 6 and a bit million, thereabouts. But okay, let's just ignore that, you know, 6 million plus strong mountain of corpses and just deal with what was your little potted history of Jewish oppression in Nazi Germany. You mentioned Kristallnacht. Now that is entirely down to the Nazis. And you mentioned 300,000 people who died of starvation in the labour camps. See, and this is a key part of Holocaust denial. You know, Holocaust deniers like you like to bring up. They'll say X number of people, and that X represents basically whatever number they feel like plucking out of their arse today. They'll say that X number of people died of starvation or some sort of contagious disease in the labour camps, in the concentration camps, whatever, right? And that this was just like a natural occurrence for which you can't blame the Nazis. But that's not fucking true. If you imprison people for whatever fucking reason, and let's just conveniently ignore the fact that these people were fucking imprisoned for just being Jewish or just being homosexuals or just being gypsies or Slavs or whatever, right? let's just ignore that. Let's just fucking gloss over that, you bigoted prick, right? For whatever reason you imprison somebody, you are ultimately responsible for their safety and for them being alive or not being alive. Because they can't fucking fend for themselves. They can't go out and find food. You have to provide them with food and sanitation and somewhere to fucking sleep and general safety, okay? So those 300,000, even if we accept your incredible revisionist bullshit, that still makes the Nazis responsible for the Kristallnacht, the destruction of Jewish property and the beating to death and general oppression of many Jews all across Germany at that time, and the essentially either culpable manslaughter or fucking outright murder of 300,000 people, which puts paid to your whole shtick about not taking a side in the war, which is a thing he mentions in several of his videos about. He doesn't want to take sides with the Germans or the English because he's for Team Europe. Now, as much as there were transgressions, as you like to mention, on all sides, you know, there was Japanese internment in America, and there was, Britain were very reticent to take Jewish emigres from the continent and things like that, okay? There was not an industrialised slaughter of millions of fucking people anywhere else but in Nazi Germany. So the fact that you're unwilling to take a side against that, all of that shows that you're no fucking better than any other Holocaust denier. What you're attempting to do here is excuse and explain away and ultimately deny the single greatest crime that our species has ever engaged in. You evil fucking prick.
Now, with that said, let me elaborate a bit on the real reason for the Second World War. It had nothing to do with a madman hungry for power wanting to conquer everything.
Yeah, it totally didn't have anything to do with Hitler being a madman that wanted to conquer everything. Absolutely not. I mean, it's not as if Nazi Germany invaded Czechoslovakia, Poland, Romania, the Channel Islands, the Netherlands, France, Belgium, Norway, Denmark, Greece, Egypt, Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union, Vichy France, Hungary, Italy. Oh wait, they totally did all of that. Yeah, they invaded all of those countries. So that sort of puts a massive hole in your fucking bullshit, doesn't it? You twat.
Now, I've talked long enough about everything except the real reason. To put it simply, and I suggest that you read up on this as well because it's really interesting and presents a more realistic view of things. Germany got stomped into the dust, and the Second World War was about Germany trying to break off from the international banking system.
The problem is, Golden One, we all know fully well that what you mean by international banking system is Jews. And just to ram home the point, I've put together a little compilation from some of his other videos where he exposes his anti-Semitism for all the world to see.
Yes, I'm fully fucking aware of Jewish media dominance and financial dominance. Now obviously you talk about the Jewish influence, and obviously, yeah, they perhaps had an interest in splitting up Europe, creating a multicultural project to further their own power in said nations. Yes, we should be well aware of the influence of Zionism. We should be well aware of the Frankfurt School and the origins of the Second World War. Greetings, true friends. Today I want to talk a bit about something that has been a long time coming, and that is the influence of the Jews in Western society. For me, Adolf Hitler was a very accomplished economist, and that's basically it. If you talk with a Jew, he will, bombard you with information as of what the Muslims, the Arabs, has done towards Israel. Now, why do mainstream media hate Dr. David Duke so much? Is it because he was part of a certain organization almost half a decade ago? No, it's actually not. It's because he calls out exactly what is going on in America. And he calls out Zionist control of it, and that is why mainstream media hates him.
Oh, God, for fuck's sake. After having searched through all of that fucking bile, I really don't think there's enough bleach in the world to ever make me feel clean again. But one funny thing did crop up as I was doing the research for that, and that was this one ridiculously inappropriate piece of advertising.
Yeah, that would be an advertisement in French for some fucking reason, for an online Hebrew course, which has been placed on a video by a massively rabid anti-Semite about white nationalism.
I really don't think YouTube have got a particularly great handle on the whole, targeted advertising thing just yet. There's a few wrinkles in that system that need ironing out. But having just seen him be anti-Semitic as fuck about events that happened 70 years ago, let's see him be Islamophobic as fuck about something that's only just happened.
Greetings, true friends. I'm sure you all heard the news. that the capital of the world, the capital of the West, capital of Great Britain, London, now has a Muslim mayor.
No!
No! God, please, no! No! No!
No, 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 no!
How could the people of London elect Osama bin Laden as their mayor? Dear Christ, may God have mercy on our souls. Hang on, I'm sorry. I'm just getting news through. It wasn't Osama bin Laden they've elected. It was this guy. Yeah, they've elected Sadiq Khan, who, as you can see there, is just another boring cunt in a suit. Like every other politician. Ridiculously uncontroversial, really. Apparently he was born in London, which is a very strange, weird-sounding name for a town in Pakistan, isn't it? Oh, no, I'm just getting news through. It's London. He was born in London. The city he's just been elected mayor of. For fuck's sake.
Now, there are plenty of topics in relation to this that we can elaborate on, but I'm going to choose one in particular that I find extremely important and interesting, and that is the demographics of democracy. Now, if you said to an English guy 100 years ago, whites will be a minority in London in 100 years, and you will have a Muslim mayor in 100 years, he would laugh at you.
Sorry, just to stop you there, Golden One. That guy 100 years ago who wouldn't have believed that whites would be a minority in London 100 years from then, yeah, that guy would be right, because whites are not a minority in London. You fucking idiot. White people currently make up 59.79% of the nation's capital, whilst Muslims only make up 12.39%, which is only just over half as many atheists as there are in London. And I know you don't like atheists as well, but, you know, fuck you on both counts, you cunt.
And then the question remains, how did England come to this? How did England come to the point where their own native population is a minority in a lot of cities and have a Muslim mayor?
Now, whilst I'm not entirely sure what you mean by native population, because we don't have such a thing here, okay? It's not like other parts of the English-speaking world like Australia, Canada and America that have sort of First Nations populations, okay? We don't have that. So there's no such thing as a native population here. But if by native population you mean white people, then you're completely fucking wrong. Because as of the last census, not only are there not lots of cities that are majority non-white, as you claimed, there are precisely 0 British cities that are majority non-white. Now, admittedly, the city of Leicester was pretty close at 50.6% white, but that is still, albeit a slim one, a majority. So either stop fucking lying or do some research that doesn't come from Stormfront or whatever, okay? And try and learn something. Oh, sorry, you're a nationalist. Why would you try and learn something?
And furthermore, how will England come to a point within a few decades where you have Sharia law in a lot of places?
If you mean Sharia courts as in the Sharia religious courts of arbitration, which by the way are not law courts regardless of how much you fuckers want to claim they are, okay, then those courts already exist in Britain. As indeed do the BEYTAS courts, which are religious courts of arbitration for Jewish people, and they've existed here for a hell of a lot longer, and Jewish people haven't taken over. No, Golden One, they haven't taken over. So ultimately, if you want to get into a discussion about the complete removal of religious courts of arbitration, which again, to repeat, are not law courts, then by all means, you go ahead and do so, okay? But you have to do so across the board. You would have to remove them for all religions. And secondly, if you mean that in the near future there are going to be Sharia courts which supersede British law, then you're fucking wrong. You're entirely wrong. Of course, you're a nationalist, of course you're fucking wrong. The British people, and therefore the British government by extension, are not going to countenance such things. And just because there are a minority of Muslims who are calling for Sharia court to be implemented and to supersede British law courts means nothing, because that's a minority of a very slim minority. It's not going to happen anytime fucking soon, if ever.
Supply and demand will always be there. So if you have a large demand for something, there's a large demand for a representative of Muslims in England because there are a lot of Muslims there. It's completely natural. And of course they want a representative. I don't think they're very interested in becoming decadent and degenerate atheist Westerners. I mean, who would? That's not a particularly attractive thing to do.
Oh, I don't know, that looked quite fun actually. I mean, I quite enjoy being a decadent atheist Westerner slut or whatever fucking shit was just oozing from your mouth. Oh, of course, you're a nationalist. You do nothing else but ooze shit from your mouth.
Now, this is what created this. How can we combat this, if you will? Now, I don't have anything in particular against Muslims. It's just that I'm for a British Britain.
Golden one. You know that the words British and Muslim are not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, take for instance a guy like Sadiq Khan. You may have heard of him. He was just democratically elected by the majority white, majority non-Muslim city of London. He's a Muslim guy. He was born in Tooting in South London. You know, the city he's just been elected the mayor of.
So if you're for a British Britain, you will want to create or ignite or reignite, perhaps it's a better term, the demand on the British side, so that all British people who do not want to have Sharia laws in England, they next election vote for, you know, parties that can satisfy their demand.
Well, I quite agree. People who oppose the installation of Sharia law over and above superseding British law should vote for candidates who also believe that. You know, they could vote for candidates like Sadiq Khan, for instance. You may have heard of him. He's just been elected mayor of the majority white, majority non-Muslim city of London. You know, London, the capital of Britain, the country you're talking about, but don't seem to have any fucking clue about. Of course you're a nationalist. All you ever do is talk about stuff you have no clue about, because you have no clue about everything.
Now we obviously have a good few really important elections coming up. In the West, we have Brexit, which I hope that England and Britain will take very seriously and exit the EU. That would be absolutely glorious. Then we also have elections in America, in France, in Sweden coming up the next few years. So we have to work to reignite that demand for a representative who says, you know what, I'm actually more comfortable in having Europe for Europeans.
You're advising Europeans to vote for nationalists. Yeah, because that's never worked out appallingly badly before, has it? But anyway, something you may have noticed so far in the video is that, given his Swedish accent, he doesn't always completely 100% pronounce words as you would if English was your first language, right? And this becomes an unfortunate regularity with one particular phrase, which is one of his favourites. It recurs in basically every video he ever does, which is, of course, the phrase beta leftist, or beta leftists, which is basically a catch-all phrase he uses to mean anyone he doesn't like. Basically anyone vaguely to the left of Genghis Khan. But unfortunately, the phrase beta leftist, when coming from a Swedish voice, sounds a bit odd, frankly.
Backing down like some little beta, then you go forward and say, why? How beta leftists? So all these little betas, these little insignificant shits, but Sweden is the laughing stock of the rest of the world, because we are so beta and because we are so leftist. And now, beta leftists, I'm gonna put you in checkmate, and then you have these betas, or basically what I call beta leftist, people who revere everything that's unnatural, sick, unhealthy, unglorious, untraditional. Beta leftist journalists and social justice warriors.
Beta leftists. Oh god, I know I shouldn't laugh. I know it's not cool, right? You shouldn't take the piss out of someone for the way they talk, especially when it's not their first language. Like, I assure you, his English is way better than my fucking Swedish, right? My Swedish is non-existent, basically. And in fact, actually, his English isn't much worse than my fucking English, to be honest. But even so, I can't help but find it funny. I mean, it's like listening to the Swedish chef from the Muppets, but only, you know, really fucking racist, and sexist, and transphobic, and homophobic, and just generally fucking bigoted. And as you can tell by the series of images that are going past on the screen, in looking up some images to go along with this voiceover bit, I discovered that there are loads and loads of really talented, creative people utterly fucking wasting their time creating these amazing Swedish chef memes. Like, when did this become a fucking thing? It's amazing. Look at this, some of these are fucking incredible. But anyway, let's move on, shall we? Because now it's time for... Yes, it's the inevitable bit about rape. Now, when it comes to rape apology, the Golden One really isn't the worst. I mean, he's pretty fucking shitty in some areas, like he's obsessed about the rape-fugees thing. Not because he actually gives a fuck about women getting raped, or the facts of the situation or anything like that. No, it's because they're Muslims. They're brown folk, and he sees them as like rapist invaders or whatever, right? And that fits rather conveniently, if, you know, incorrectly, into his narrative about white versus non-white and race war, although he's not honest enough to call it race war. But I haven't gone with anything like that. I've gone with essentially a reversal of the usual rape apology. Usually it's horrible manospherian dickheads trying to say that basically men raping women isn't really that much of a problem, or whatever, right? But actually this time it's the other way round.
What is sex? Sex is a transaction of power, and it's really simple. It's as simple as genders. There are two genders, and there are two different ways you can participate in the act of sex. You can either get fucked, or you can do the fucking. If you do the fucking, you're gaining power from the individual you are fucking. The individual who gets fucked are submitting his or her power to the one doing the fucking. Now, keep that in mind. Sex is not on equal terms. So, whenever we talk about double standards, you need to drop these foolish notions, because sex is not the same as sex if you view it from that standpoint. And thus, a man cannot be raped by a woman.
What a really fucking ludicrous attitude towards sex that is. What an absolutely fucking dead on the inside husk of a human being you are. And by the way, you're completely fucking wrong. I mean, what about if a woman sticks the neck of a wine bottle up your arse without asking first, or fucks you with a strap on? Is that not rape somehow? I don't quite know how that works in your head. Also, there's a thing called forced envelopment, where basically a woman forces herself upon an erect penis, which unfortunately in many jurisdictions, the UK being one, is not really classified as rape, unfortunately. So what I've done is I've left a link to a petition below on the official UK government website, so sadly only people from the UK can sign it. But if you are from the UK and you care about this topic, that being, you know, rapists being convicted of rape, then please go and sign that petition. I beseech you to do so. But anyway, let's wrap this shit up, shall we? Because quite frankly, I've had enough of this fucking douche nozzle. Right, there's so much I didn't even get round to talking about in this video because of time constraints and such. Like his transphobia. He's an absolutely horrific transphobe. He's a massive fucking homophobe. He's obsessed with the idea that watching porn is bad, right? He's absolutely obsessed with the idea of it. Essentially, when a man masturbates, he's releasing his masculine energy for no good purpose or whatever. He's got some really quite kind of, I don't know, outdated, shitty, pointless views about that. In fact, at one point he actually made a video called "Watching Porn is Extremely Gay" or something like that. And you think, how is that gay? I mean, if it's gay porn you're watching, I suppose, but I mean, so what? Like, it's so absurd. Or his really weird series where he plays like a kind of Age of Conquest type game and goes through it as if it's an actually real thing. That's quite bizarre to watch. And there's loads of other really fucking weird shit that I didn't really get round to. But ultimately what he is just a fucking extreme right-wing piece of shit who basically calls everyone a cultural Marxist or a BEYYYYYTAS leftist or whatever. I don't know why I said that in a German accent, that was weird. But so basically he's just an out there on the right fucking twat.
But with all of that unpleasantness dealt with, there is just one thing left for me, Rory Leshat, to say. The Golden One. Go fuck yourself.
If you change your mind, I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. If you need me, let me know. Gonna be around if you've got no place to go. If you're feeling down, if you're alone and the pretty birds have flown. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me.